Hi guys, and welcome to yet another update video, and this one is going to be particularly short because most of it has just been working on Halloween things, and other than that I've not really been very well the last week or so. It's an ongoing problem that I've kind of had to accept and deal with, but it's just the problem is it's not like dire or anything. It's just distracting, which is the real problem, and it makes it kind of hard to write. So sometimes I'm just struggling. Well, I have been struggling. I'm feeling much better at the moment, but that's just like something that's really dragged last week down in terms of getting anything very much done. I did finish Still Wakes the Deep, which I'm very pleased with. I actually very much like that video and the way that it worked. There's a lot of other things that I've got to talk about, well, at least a lot of other Halloween-related games, but before we get to talk about any of them, the upcoming video is one on sound design that I'm still writing it at the moment. I'm finding it hard, obviously, because of various different things. I'm finding it harder to try and come up with a video, and the last one on difficulty, which I did a week or two ago, was... it was a nightmare to try and write because I just could not focus properly because of health reasons, and I was just I looked at the script over and over again and just could not make any sense out of it. And I was honestly half expecting, I really wanted to demo it to people, but I was taken, to be like, does this video actually make sense to you? But I spent so long going through it that by the time I actually got to finish the video and post it, it was time to post it. So didn't really get to demo it before anybody, to show anybody, ask if it made sense before I posted it. So I just kind of had to go with it. Luckily, it did really well, and the channel has been doing quite well for a while. I'm still impressed by how well the graphics video is done, and the 6-hour video did really good, and I don't know what I'm doing, but apparently I'm doing it very well. I had a very, very productive week on my week off, which was great. I got loads of stuff done. I finished recording a couple of games, and I did at least 3 videos, finished proper 3 videos. So, there's that. Oh, hang on, I've got some other stuff I just realized I can talk about as well. Yeah, actually, I have a couple of other things I want to talk about. Yeah, but let's get on with this stuff first. I got Crow Country, Dread Out, and Choo Choo Charles done, and that's made a big dent in the stuff to do for Halloween. And really at the moment now, I'm kind of winding down the recording part of it because there's not that much left to do. I finished recording The Cat Lady, I finished recording Lunacid, which I've finished writing Lunacid yesterday. So that'll be the next video up. I'm just downloading my friend's footage because I've started recording halfway through the game. I was playing the game for them, and they were like, this is a horror game, right? And I'm like, I'm getting the vibe that it is. And it actually said on the store page, horror RPG, and I'm like, well, it is made by the people who made Lost in Vivo, which is one of my favorite horror games. And I kind of felt like it was a good chance to just talk about the game, and I like it enough to want to talk about it. It's got fantastic atmosphere, and it can be scary in places. It's not gotten a great high score out of the review that I've written, but I think it's interesting enough that I want to talk about. I want to just have a lot of different games available to look at throughout Halloween, and Lunacid's one of them. So, yeah, there's that. I'm still recording Conscript. Conscript took me a long time to get through. I think I'm only just finishing chapter 2. I don't know how many there are. But I had a bit of a hard time the last time that I recorded it because of some of the mechanics in the game really threw me. There's light mechanics, basically, where you use a torch to, see ahead, and this works really well, but you can also not use a torch to get where you're going. But you don't realize that you can't actually see certain doorways if you do not have the torch equipped, and the torch runs on batteries which can run out, which means that in a way I'm going to have to talk about this when I do the video, but it seems that from my perspective at least, that if progression of the game is tied to resources, that are finite, then that could be a problem. Like if someone I accidentally wasted so much of the flashlight just because I needed to use it somewhere else, and then when I actually came to an area where I needed to use it, I just didn't know. I couldn't because I did not have the resources available. You can just go and buy them, so it's not like you will ever be, completely locked out. But like some things like that are gonna, like, if it can happen, it will happen. That's the way I look at these sort of things. If there is a gameplay problem that will prevent someone from progressing the game, then never underestimate how a player will sort of bump into that sort of thing. So yeah, I thought that might be a problem, and it did, and I bumped into it, so it can happen to people who are smarter as well. Or dumb, So yeah, that's one thing that I was looking at. Otherwise, Conscript is great. I love the atmosphere of Conscript, but like it just took me I think I spent at least 30 minutes trying to figure out where I was supposed to go, because the map is just maze-like. It is huge, and trying to figure out what you're supposed to do where was a bit confusing. I was convinced for a while that the rat traps or something, the rat holes, I was supposed to do something with them to progress, but I didn't realize it was actually just couldn't see an area because I didn't have a flashlight on in a specific dark place, which, really at the end of the day you are supposed to have a flashlight on if it's dark. But so if it doesn't seem to need one, then sometimes you just don't need to use one. I'd rather just conserve flashlight batteries if I have to like go through a dark area. But yeah, so there's that. Conscript's really good though. Otherwise, I'm finding it a lot of fun. Even though I did get stuck for 30 minutes, I'm still having a lot of fun with it. Next up is Nightmare Creatures. Nightmare Creatures, I'm getting a little tired of, to be frank. Like the issue is more along the lines of the enemies have just become vastly, like they just dodge a lot, to the point where I'm constantly not hitting them because they've already like completely circled around me. I said it to one of my friends at the time, but like it was like playing Bloodborne, but I'm the monster and the Bloodborne antagonist is just quick dodging around me constantly and I can't hit them. And that's kind of how it feels. It feels like, even though I felt like at the start of the game, especially when it compares to like the zombie enemies that you see at the start, it does feel like the protagonist like gets completely out of their league in terms of combat prowess as time goes on. And yeah, it got to the point where I was really struggling to just hit some of especially the werewolves. The werewolves seem to be much faster. But other than that, like I'm still finding it. It's pretty good. Think I'm about 3/4 of the way through the game, but I've still got a bit more to go for that. So yeah. Forbidden Siren, is really testing my patience. Forbidden Siren. I'm just the way that I'm gonna do it at this point, because people want to talk about it, but I'm not sure if I'm really gonna end up finishing the game at this rate, is I'm going to get through as much as humanly possible. And if I accidentally fail it and end up going through the loop, then I'll just have to talk about that instead, because the problem is I'm not really enjoying the game at all. It is, I only really decided to cover it just because it was a game that I bought. I already own Forbidden Siren. And it was one of those ones that people brought up relentlessly during the best horror games ever. And I understand, like, the atmosphere and everything are really good. Like, it's on its horror merits alone, Forbidden Siren's a fantastic game. Like, but the actual playing of the game is, in my opinion, just miserable. I feel the same way about that as I do with The Evil Within, where, like, I can understand on, like, a critical point that it does very well for its horror, that they do very good. But in terms of me actually enjoying that is very low. Throwing myself at a certain area over and over again to figure out what I'm supposed to do to progress, with multiple deaths, clunky controls, and just NPCs who do not behave. Like, they've got certain mechanics in it where it's like, especially if you're doing like an escort mission where you're supposed to guide somebody else through the level, you can say wait and stop, but sometimes they'll just completely ignore that and run straight out into gunfire, get shot and die, which is immensely frustrating just because everything else works alright, but then the NPCs just kind of do what they want. So yeah, that's been not a great deal of fun to deal with, and I don't think I'm that far into the game either, but I've still got some time left to try and get a bit further. If worse comes to worse and I realise that I'm not going to get Forbidden Siren done, then I'm going to try and I'm going to have something else ready instead. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll have to try and find another game to cover. It's just a bit disappointing. The problem is as well that, like, I'm finding with Forbidden Siren that I don't want to play it either. So, like, a lot of them every time that I'm like, right, time to do some recording, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I want to play Conscript, I want to play Nightmare Creatures, I want to play Home Sweet Home, or any of that, especially Lunacid. I played Lunacid from near start to finish, that was great. But every time that I'm like, and I've also got to do, Forbidden Siren and Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which is another one I'm not particularly keen on doing. I'm not very fond of that game either. But yeah, I just don't feel like doing it, which is the real kicker for that. But yeah. Moving on. Cannibal Abduction. I actually played that from start to finish. I was really expecting that because I think I started playing about half of it, and then I was like, I had to stop for some reason, and I was like, I'm gonna come back to this. But then I ended up starting a brand new game and played through it from start to finish completely. I didn't realize how short it was. I thought it was going to be a longer game than it was, and it's pretty good. It was very entertaining. There was a little bit of there are some parts where I was very curious about how the antagonist works, because it works in a similar sort of way as like Stay Out of the House and stuff like that, where you're presented with like a house basically, and you're supposed to go through and find all the different. It's like Deadly Night. When I played Deadly Night, very similar to that, but I think Deadly Night was scarier personally. But Deadly Night was barely visible because I think I was supposed to find a torch in that game, but I didn't, so I was just running around in the dark the entire game. But Cannibal Abduction, the way that the antagonist works is they seem to just move around the house and you're trying to avoid them, which is like obvious, but like the way that I was confused was like, sometimes I would like go down to the basement and the basement is a dead end. Like there is a room behind there, but like there was, if I was already down there, they weren't down there. And then I would come back up the stairs and then there's a room at the top before the basement. And I was finding basically that I would then have the antagonist come up the stairs from the basement. And I'm like, well, they can't be in the basement because I was just down there. So I was led to believe at certain points especially that the antagonist would just teleport, which I think part of me is like, that's not good. They should be wandering around the house in a way that makes sense. But also that would really catch me off guard if like suddenly they were down there, and I think that's great. Like it really catches you by surprise. Like I'm kind of conflicted on whether that's good or not, but I personally, my personal opinion is I think that's good. So yeah, but Cannibal Abduction was a bit short, so I was kind of wondering whether I was going to use Cannibal Abduction or not for this year's Halloween, but I think I'm going to, just because of I don't really have very many games like it. I have quite a lot of survival horror games this year, which is way more than last year, which was all pretty much, well, I mean the year before was pretty much all psychological horror stuff. But I got much more survival horror stuff this time, so that's good. Home Sweet Home. I played a little more. I'm getting a little exasperated with that game as well. It's not in the same way as the others, mostly just because it's a bit repetitive. It kind of puts you into it keeps on putting you into a situation where it's like, right, you need to sneak through this entire area and grab this thing and go around and do something else. And all the time the ghost girl is moving around and trying to get you. And I've just kind of found that like nothing much has changed in the last hour or so of me playing the game. Like the issue that I'm having is just that I want to move on now. Like I've been doing, I don't know how much I played I played it in three sessions at the moment. The first one was lots of different things were going on and that was pretty good. And then the second one was a lot of stuff again, but then near the end of that one it started going on to this school part that I feel like I've been doing for ages. And I'm still in the school part on this third session now. and I haven't gotten out of it. I feel like I've been doing this school for ages, where I don't feel like I've been stalling my progression either. I just feel like it's just taking forever to get through this part to get out of it, and all they keep on doing is going like, but now you need to do this, and then here's another obstruction in the way, and like, oh, but you've got to do this around the ghost girl again. And I'm getting kind of tired of it at this point. Like, the game was really frightening to begin with, but now the further I'm getting into the game, the less I am into it. And, yeah, it's getting a bit tiring. Lunacid was great. Lunacid was one that I just decided to add in after I said to my friend that it was a, well, after my friend said to me that, you know, this is a horror game, right? And I was like, you know, there were definitely some parts in it that were frightening. But, Lunacid's like an action RPG sort of thing. Like it's compared to like Kingsfield and Shadow Tower and games like that of like PlayStation 1 sort of first-person action RPG made by FromSoft, and it's got the FromSoft atmosphere. It does very good with that. But the difference is that it's made by the people who made Lost in Vivo. And there's like a cutesy element to some parts of it where, like, you know, they all talk like Banjo-Kazooie characters, but at the same time there's like these really weird, unnatural sections to the game where you'll just sort of go into an area and know that there's something there. There's like the sound of something that sounds like a monster, but you can't see it. And I think those parts of the game for me were like the most frightening parts, because you know something's there, but you don't know what it is, you don't know where it is, and you just kind of, it's one of those things where, like, you know when you're like hiding from an antagonist in a game and you're like, I just hope they didn't see me. And this is the same sort of thing where you go into a room and you're like, I don't know what that is, but I want to get out of it. Like, you know, I do not wish to engage with this sort of thing. And, you know, that's kind of how some of those encounters gone. It's not scary throughout, so it's not getting a point for scares. In fact, I already know that because I've already written it. But the atmosphere is great, really great atmosphere, and there's quite a lot of it too. I think I've got about 15 something hours, and I played through it quite like one session after another. It was just really enjoyable to play. I'm going to be doing a lot of new games that I may swap out at the last minute for some of the ones that have been featured on the list for a while, because just in case that I don't get some of these finished, I want to have stuff prepared. But there's not very many to do. I've got, like, obviously the Silent Hill 2 remake still isn't out yet, so I can't do that. Resident Evil Code Veronica, I've kind of worked my way into a dead end at the moment. I'm going to have to reload an earlier save on Resident Evil Code Veronica, because I've just run out of healing completely, and I'm just one hit away from death, and there are enemies everywhere. So I'm probably going to have to reload an earlier save for that one. Nightmare Creatures, again, not much more to do. Curse Eye of Isis I haven't played for quite a while. I really need to get back to that one. Home Sweet Home I just mentioned. There on the 14th I've got question mark, because I'm not sure what I'm going to do for that one, but I'm going to have something, obviously. Conscript, Forbidden Siren, and Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which again I haven't played for quite a while. I really need to get back to that one as well. So there's not that much left to do. Most of the ones that I need to do still are going to be the ones that I've just already recorded and need to make videos out of. So there's that. Oh, coming up, I haven't had very many ideas for videos, normal videos coming up. Well, I call them normal, but they, you know, the horror reviews used to be normal. Now this is the new normal, I guess. What am I thinking? I don't know what to call them. Like the analysis videos that I've been doing, because I've got like horror game difficulty is still on the list, and I'm going to do that. Oh, I've got the most atmospheric game to talk about as well. I've got the sound design one coming up that I was talking about, where I'm going to be talking about lots of tricks that you can kind of do with sound design, and little things that are used in like horror media that you don't necessarily think about or know about. And I think that'll be, I don't know if that would be like immediately engaging to everybody, but I think it'll be at least cool. So there's that, the most atmospheric game, and I'm also working on the same time another 7 free horror games, and so far I've got 5. I have one more to go. I've already got like another one ready to record. I just haven't played it. So I'm going to go through them quickly. So there's Psychopump. I've done quite a while ago. I brought that up, and that's going in the video because that's free. I've been trying to find games that are longer or like games that are more involved, because I think the most disappointing thing about a lot of the games that I've ended up covering for the 7 free horror games is the fact that most of them are only about 10 minutes long, and there's not really much of a game in there. I think a lot of people would prefer something that's a bit longer. So I've been trying to find games that are like, 45 minutes to an hour at least. So, yeah. So the first one's Psychopump. I talked about that before. Impasto, which is a game based on... This is a really, really, really niche game. I think it's fantastic, but it's a very niche game where it's based on the works of Francisco Goya, who is a Spanish painter, I believe. I don't know exactly if he is Spanish or Portuguese, or I think he's from Spain. Painter from like the 15 or 1600s or whatever. And he did a very famous set of paintings called the Black Paintings. And I watched a whole thing about this after playing the game. It was fascinating. And basically you end up traveling into a world painted by Francisco Goya, and inside the world there is a bunch of stuff going on, and basically throughout the game you're supposed to try and find these pages so a guitarist can do this thing, and then the guitarist will open the gate, and you think that takes you elsewhere, but it actually takes you to another painting inside the painting. And after that it kind of just suddenly ends, which is a bit disappointing, because I know it's a free game, but like it was really involved, and really went quite hard into the whole aesthetic that it was making. But the horror wasn't particularly there very much. But other than that, it was very good. The soundtrack was really great as well, and I liked the way things looked. Tel Forum is another one where you play as a film crew for a local news thing, going to visit a widow of a former member of the staff. So her husband works on the same crew as these people that you're playing as, but it's all about this tape that they've seen. So it's got a little bit of the para-topic thing going on, where if you something about tapes. But in Tel Forum, it's more of a point-and-click adventure game with like dialogue choices and stuff that can lead to different things. And it was pretty unnerving. I wouldn't say it was as far as frightening, but it was very unnerving. So yeah, that's another one. That took quite a while, and I'm pretty sure there are other ways out of that one. Different choices that I didn't make that I think would be entertaining for other people to find. Clap Clap was... I didn't expect much from Clap Clap, considering, the name. But it's based on the concept of you house-sitting someone, so it's got that Fears to Fathom vibe that I'm so used to at this point. And basically you're house-sitting, but every single light in the house is activated by clapping. So you have to actively clap in the middle of the room to turn the lights on. Which, when you think there's somebody else lurking around in the house, is pretty damn frightening. Like, the way that it worked was very clever. I thought I didn't realize how good of a concept it was until there was a point where I was scared that something else was in there, in this room that I was going into that was pitch black, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to walk into the darkness to then clap and turn the light on to then see whether there's anything in there, and by the time that I do that, it will already be in front of me if there is anything in there. So like that created an unholy amount of dread. It was very, very clever. So that's one. I'm going to be also giving these things proper little reviews, actually, because I've decided to shape up the whole 7 things, to make them more like 7 individual little reviews. So I'm hoping to make that better as well. Slender the 8 Pages, classic. Really, is there any point, not bringing up Slender the 8 Pages? I was so impressed that the game that I played, God knows how many years ago, at least 12 years ago, was actually still really good. Not the graphics or the animations or anything like that. Obviously, it's aged quite badly in that regard, being a Unity project from 2012. But the actual horror of it was still very good. It was quite surprising, and I remember very vividly playing Slender the Arrival and finding that was just completely underwhelming. But the actual concept of, you know, Slender the 8 Pages worked really well, and that one's free, so I decided that would be the retro one to include. There's also another game called Surrender that I've got on the list, but I haven't actually played that one yet, so can't really talk much about it. I'm gonna have a look for a couple more, and then I'll be ready to post another 7 Free Horror one. I'm gonna hopefully put it out alongside or just after this week's sound design video, so that's that. And finally, I wanted to talk about the game where I've been asked to write a part of. And yeah, so I was kind of concerned for quite a while that they weren't actually going to consult me on anything that I was doing, which made me concerned, to say the least, because all I'd really provided them with, even though I provided them with a very detailed essential series of scripted events to recreate within their game, I was worried that they weren't going to, they were just going to do their best or like make alterations or try and incorporate what I'd done into their game in a way that, you know, I was not able to have any kind of say on. But just there was a lack of communication for a while on both ends. I didn't really check up on them. But they have been working on the base game, which I completely forgot. I kind of assumed the entire game was going to be made of different people's submissions, but they have their own main game, which I just didn't even think about. So basically the last few months have just been them working on their main game. But they've finished doing that, and now they're starting working on the individual projects for the people who have submitted stories. So I'll be hearing more about that in the future. Game development obviously takes ages, so it'll be interesting to see where they're going with it now. That's about the much of our update for that. Is there will be something more in the future. Other really cool news that I don't have, that doesn't really have a good outcome, was one of the highest profile submissions that I've had for like a game to review was actually the sequel to White Day, where I'm very impressed that I got managed to. I'm like big enough now, I guess, to get a free key for their new game. Unfortunately, they sent it on a Keymailer website, which apparently it's a very famous one. I don't know. I don't really use Keymailer websites, but the issue is that they wanted me to like play through the entire game and finish it and have content worth, you know, content to talk about with in like, I think like 2 months, which is going to clash really, really badly with all the other things that I'm trying to do at the same time. So even though I was like, wow, look, I got the free key for the sequel to White Day, it's like, I haven't even finished the main game yet. I haven't finished the first game, and I'm never going to be at 2 months, even though that's a long time to play a game. I'm playing like 5 to 7 other games at the same time, as well as working on theory videos and all the other projects that I do outside of this, to the point where like I have no time to do that. So even though I was really impressed that I ended up getting it, I had to just say, I haven't got time to do that, sorry. It's like the first key that I've been given of that quality, and I still can't do it, which is a bit disappointing, but you know, I'll play it when I want to. I'm still kind of, part of me is still thinking that, like, you know, if you get a key like this, you do really have to say nice things about it, and I don't want to feel that way. So I'd rather just buy the game at some point and then just say what I think about it. I quite like the first game, but it's very weird, and I haven't finished it, so that's another thing that I'll have to do one day. Anyway, that's about it for this update. Not a lot of really fascinating things to talk about, just a lot of updates, I guess. So that's kind of what the video's here for. I was looking into doing some more Let's Plays, but I haven't really had the time at the moment. I'm hoping that when I get to a point, even though I'm doing really good for Halloween this year, when I get to I feel like I want to get to a point where I'm really confident that there's nothing pressing, then I'll be able to spend more time doing it. So yeah, hopefully. But other than that, I don't really have anything much else to say. So I guess I will see you all next time. And thank you for all your kind support in my trying time of need.